Awesome. I'm excited to be here. For those that don't know, I grew up as a developer in the Utah JavaScript community, the UtahJS user group, back when it was like 15 of us, maybe 20 of us. Who remembers that? AJ O'Neill, remember sitting around a conference table together? Like, I grew up in this community, so it's a huge honor to be here and to be talking to everyone. I'm going to do a quick introduction and kind of talk about what I'm going to be talking about. So I don't want anyone wondering who, the guy that got up at the beginning and wasted a bunch of time was. So the guy who got up at the beginning and wasted a bunch of time, that is Dave Smith. And my name is Aaron Frost. No, serious props to Ken and Dave and everyone involved. Sunny, she's amazing. I know her, and her whole team is great. So if you need anything, give them a quick round of applause because they deserve it. So I have a family. I have an awesome wife. I have 2 girls and 2 boys. This is my son, Ryan. He just turned 5 in Disneyland, and it was a lot of fun. I love to go fishing. Who fishes? I catch and release mostly. I try to put it back. Ice fishing is kind of my thing. If you're ever interested in going, seriously, tweet me, and I'll take you. I got a pretty cool setup. My career, I'm a Google developer expert. Some of my friends from the NU team that nominated me are here today, which is cool. I work at Domo. Like Dave said, I'm one of the front-end engineers, and I work on an awesome team with some really talented people. And I am one of the organizers of NGConf, which is a huge blessing, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to get to do every single year. I'm going to tell you a couple things about me, just so we know. I'm always this red. Like, there's not an internet picture of me where I'm not this red. They don't exist. And it's not just when I'm speaking. I'm seriously like omni-red. It doesn't ever stop. I have a twin brother, so if we're ever out in public and you come in hard for the 5, and I don't come back at you, it's because it's probably not me. But go in and give him a hug anyway. He's the evil twin, I'm the cool twin, but also he's like my best friend and one of the nicest people I've ever met. So say hi to Joel if you ever see me in public. I also have this weird thing. I believe that you can tell a lot about a person by the music they listen to when they code. A lot about a developer you can know. So if it wasn't illegal to ask in an interview, I would ask in every single interview, right? But then imagine you're interviewing Ken Schneider, and you're like, I'm hiring this guy, like everyone in here would. And he's like, Depeche Mode. And you're like, oh, cut the interview short, right? Just kidding, seriously. For the code of conduct, if anyone likes Depeche Mode, that was just a joke. I picked a random 80s keyboard band. Okay. So we're going to talk today about decoys, and I've got this concept of what a decoy is. I hope I can share it, and I hope I can scare some of us who are decoys, but also help those of us who work with them, so that we can help coach them and work around the decoys. So Dave calls me, and Dave says, "Hey, do you have any soft skills talks you want to talk about?" I'm like, "No, Dave, I don't." Why would you ask me that? He's like, "What about what if I put you on a mic? I give you a mic and put you on stage and a lot of people, and you could talk about whatever you want." I'm like, "Well, I've got some important stuff to say in that case." Packs of wild dogs taking over most major cities in North America. Dave's like, "Okay, what else you got? Like, what else besides that?" I was like, I've got this talk rolling around where I help talk to people about protecting themselves from harmful leaders in their organization. And it's sparked because in the community, there's a lot of really intelligent people. I know in this room, there's a lot of really intelligent people. And they get led astray by some weird leadership that I would call decoys, okay? About a year ago, I got a chance to meet a really cool company in Draper. And they called me, they said, "Hey, our 3 team leads all just quit. And the existing team thinks that what we were doing was crazy. And before we keep going, we want to see if you think that was crazy or if that was cool so we know which way to go in life." So I went in and I got there, and it was indeed crazy. I'm not going to go into the details, and I'm not going to say what the company was, but I think if you guys saw it, you'd like, "This is nuts. Like, what was going on here?" And I just confirmed their own suspicions. I didn't tell them anything. I was like, "Yeah, that is not cool. You were right when you thought that was not cool." And I wondered, how did these, because they were all really, really smart, how did these smart people get led by someone that would do something crazy like this? And it was really clear to me that they had some decoys in that shop. And And I said, and I was pumped. By the time I left, it looked like they had some new leadership in place. They were going in the right direction. I know last month they shipped their first version of their product, so I know they course corrected, but I've seen a lot of really talented and intelligent people be led astray by decoy leaders. And it's really about helping people protect themselves and preventing people from getting led astray. So each day we go to work and we follow some instructions, maybe some guidance. We obey, which is a good thing. Sometimes we don't ask questions, the ones that we should. Maybe sometimes we don't do what's best for our users. We do what's best for our development stack. Maybe we don't always look to ensure the survival of our company. I know a lot of us are at startups that are still trying to earn a spot at the table. So not doing that, I think, is a pretty big problem. Sometimes we see selfish things, we see untruthy things, or truthy things, which is almost the same thing. And when we see these things, we're seeing decoys. Okay, these things are decoys. This is what decoys do. A decoy. It's a thing-like object, but it's not a thing, okay? And its whole purpose of existence is to make you think it is a thing, but it's never a thing, okay? It was only there to trick you and make you think it was a legit thing, okay? But it never was. And we see people that are these decoys, and we hear what they say and the things that they do, and we go, that must be what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to emulate that as someone who's an up-and-coming leader. But when it's a decoy, you're being led astray. And I want to talk today about some red flag things that we can look for when we have decoys that will help us be able to help our organization correct course. I'm going to give a couple examples of decoys. So what's the purpose of this decoy? To trick a duck, right? But what am I going to do with the duck that got tricked? I'm going to kill it, yeah. It's a pretty bad decoy. So his sole purpose is to get ducks dead. So in football, there's a decoy. So here we have an offensive play. We have two receivers set up with a defender, okay? And they're going to run a route, and the one receiver is going to go straight. The other receiver is going to go up and out. He's going to do a post towards the sideline. So what happens here? What does the defender do? Which one does the defender pick? Does anyone know? By the way, if you see this in the NFL, you throw over there every single time. If you have two receivers on one defender, every single time you're throwing there. So what's going to happen? Whoever the defender covers, that's the decoy, and the quarterback's thrown to their person. So this person helps you really kind of attack your opponent. This decoy, it helps you knock them off their heels. So the last example of a decoy I'm going to give is actually a pretty cool example. Has anyone ever read about the Ghost Army from World War II? Yeah, it's pretty cool. So we came up with this amazing invention of these tanks. These tanks look legit, right? They look cool. So these tanks, they're balloons, and they look like tanks, and if someone gets underneath it and walks it around, it moves like tanks, and if a Panzer division of German tanks comes near it, they'll usually go around it because it looks like a bunch of tanks are sitting there. And it allowed us to protect places that we didn't have enough ammo to protect. So sometimes decoys aren't the worst thing, but these are examples of decoys, things that are object-like things, but they're not the thing themselves, okay? All right, so one huge disclaimer. So I'm about to go into this part of my talk where I'm like, hey, these things are red flags. And immediately everyone in the room is like, I do that, or I certainly do that. Or you're like, hey, I know someone who does that. Okay, what this next part is not is a checklist of things that you can go back to work with and be like, that person, that's number one. That's a decoy, okay? If you have someone who's doing one or two or three of these things, that's not I'm not saying that person must be declared a decoy and you must manage that person. I'm simply giving us a bunch of red flags, some tools to spot a decoy. Spotting a decoy, realizing that there is a decoy, realizing that some of the chaos in the decision-making process is actually a really empowering thing because it gives you a chance to get involved and correct the focus of the team, and it lets you help also fix some of the morale problems that come when you're being led by a decoy. So again, I said it twice already. This is the third time. If someone does these things, they're not necessarily a decoy. They could be, and they might be, but everyone who does one or more of these things is not a decoy. Do we agree? Because I'm already imagining what happens on Twitter when I step off stage. So I'm just saying, this is not a list that you can go and crucify your team with. Okay. So how do you spot a decoy? We're going to talk about how to spot one. We're going to talk about spotting them generally, and we're going to talk about spotting some that we encounter as developers specifically. Is this person, do they attack like when they're engaged? If you have someone who attacks, you might have a decoy, okay? Think about it. If you have someone who, do they put someone else under the bus to avoid going under themselves? Real leaders spend a fair amount of time under the bus. And that's how it should be. If you got someone who's avoiding that, I mean, think about it. You might have a decoy. This part, it makes me feel like Jeff Foxworthy a little bit, like you might be a decoy if. Do they allow you to make mistakes? Is it okay to like explore and like not know what the end game is and really kind of screw up along the way? If that's okay, then maybe you're okay. But if mistakes are not allowed, you might be involved with a decoy. Are they right because they're loud? Or are they right because they're right? Because those are very different things. And if you have someone who's right because they're loud, red flag. Think about it. Can you question them without some sort of like apology being required afterwards? Like we don't have to like avoid each other at lunch, or we can still ride in the same car or whatever. If not, maybe you're done with the decoy. Do they hear you or do they only hear themselves? Everyone knows what I say when I say that. If you're in a scenario where someone hears themselves and they don't hear you, might have a decoy. Are they mean? Bright people don't follow mean leaders. Okay? So if you have a leader who's mean, your brightest people should be gravitating away from them, and that's another thing to look for. Do they care about your success? Any leader should care about your success. If you tell them what your goals are, it should be part of their goals now. That's what a leader does. So if they don't care about your success or you're not feeling that they are, tell them, and if they still don't, you might have a decoy. Think about it. Do they let you take credit? Do you get to go to a meeting and present your own stuff, or do they get to do it? Is fear used as a motivator? It never should be. Do they delegate even the fun things, the cool things, the things that management's going to see? Do they delegate any of that, or do they keep it for themselves? Hopefully they're delegating. Is no a word that they use a lot? Because no is not a word that good leaders use very often. A no is a roadblock, and leaders give detours. So if you see no a lot, you might have a decoy. Think about it. Do they name drop to make a point? Who here? Everyone knows what I'm talking about when I say it. Don't raise your hands because it's against the code of conduct. But everyone knows what I'm talking about when I say that they name drop to like get a point across. It's tough. When we talk about like, hey man, here's all these things. Like I just gave you a bunch of like, hopefully no one weaponizes that list I just threw up there. But a bunch of like ways to spot that you're in a cycle that involves a decoy. And it can be kind of scary because you know what? You're a nice person. That's your MO. You're the nice person. And Frost, so when I talk about this talk, I'm like, I don't really struggle with these things. Even when I'm being nice, it still kind of feels kind of harsh. Dave Smith, you know what I'm talking about, right? Even when I'm like being polite, it still like, you have to look at it in a way, otherwise it kind of feels mean. So I don't have problems with these, but most people are really nice people, I've noticed. And if you're nice, confronting a decoy it's kind of scary. Think about all those things we just talked about. That's a scary person to try and get involved with. You also don't like to start things. That's not your thing. And you're also not fully committed to your cause. Are you just being like insubordinate, or is that person really a decoy? You don't know, and you're not committed to it, so you don't know. I just want to let you know, decoys can only exist in an environment with people too scared to stand up and say something. So I know it's comfortable and it's hard to get out of your shell, but decoys and companies can only be led astray by decoys when there's no one to stand up and challenge them and oppose them. I'm going to talk about some dev decoys. These should ring with everyone. Half of us in here are like, that's me. I mean, I'm saying this. Half of us are going to know some people like this. They regularly promote refactors instead of features. I'm not saying it's always bad to promote refactors. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm saying when it's like a constant thing, let's do refactors instead of build features for our customers. Think about it. You might have a decoy there. If they refuse to do non-new things, you might have a decoy. This is called chronological snobbery. Anything that's new must be better than anything that's old, and I don't do old things. If you're in that scenario, you might have a decoy. That's not someone that you want to be leading you. They make things sound worse than they are. They'll say, man, this is not working. We can't do this anymore. When really what they meant is, this isn't ideal. If I could start over, I'd do it a different way. But we actually can still ship software to customers. They make it sound worse than it really is. Sometimes they assume the role of a lead, but they have no clear vision for like an immediate or long-term goal to help satisfy the complaints you're getting from your users or to help satisfy the morale of the team. Do they care about security? Is that a thing that cares them? Old code is crap attitude. Does anyone know what this is? The old code sucks. I don't do old code. If you see that, think about it. The estimates are consistently hundreds of percents or thousands of percents off. It's okay. We all screw this up. This is the hardest thing next to naming your variables. This is like one of the hardest things in software development is like getting an estimate correct, right? But if you have someone who consistently is hundreds or thousands of percents off on their swags, it's not okay. We need to do better. Do they dodge the 80-20 rule? The 80-20 rule says it takes 20% of the time to get 80% of your features. And it takes 80% of your time to finish the last 20%. But that's the hard part. The last 20 yards of the football field, those are the hardest ones to drive. And when you're doing a software project, those last 20% of your features, those are the hardest ones to finish up. So if you have someone that skips out for that part and they go on to the next project, that's not cool. That's where that's where you show your leadership is driving software, not driving software. Do they measure before and after to verify results? If you have someone who's like changing, no measuring, it goes on at all, you might have a decoy. Frameworks are crap, let's build our own. So you just turned your company into a framework company. Thank you, their team knows what I'm talking about. It's a great idea. This is bad. I'm going to stick with this. This is bad. Worse is if you say, frameworks suck, let's not even use a framework, because then what's going to happen is you're going to build your own framework, but you're going to do it like not intentionally, so you're going to end up with like whatever willy-nilly you threw together. That's like the worst case scenario, but the frameworks are crap, let's build our own framework. I mean, as a business user, as a business person, I would never like buy that from the team, so that's a tough one. So the other decoy, everyone here is like, oh my gosh, he finally brought up the PMs, like, thank you. Okay, PMs. Massive amounts of decoys in this industry. I love them. Who here's a PM? I just violated the code of conduct. I'm sorry. Okay. They start to ship projects, but they don't ship them. As a PM, I could find anyone on the street to start a project. Literally, I could be like, hey, read this book. It's like a 10-page pamphlet on starting projects. But if you can't ship it, if you're on a team that's got 4 things that you were working on, you've only shipped 1 and you can't seem to release the other 3, you might be dealing with a decoy because any PM can start a project. Only the good ones can actually ship code. Do they tell the UX designer what the app will look like? Because that's not their job. That's the UX guy's job or person's job. Do they have chronic design thrashing? That sounds like a really cool band name, but chronic design thrashing, what this is when you get late in the game, and it happens every single time. Sometimes you have to design thrash last minute, I understand. But and your team knows what I'm talking about with design thrashing last minute, right? You don't know. All right, we know. If this happens consistently, it's chronic, it happens every single time they get involved, you're dealing with a chronic design thrasher. And there's more, and you know how PMs, the role changes per organization. You know how it affects you. So I want to give some tips on how to work with decoys. The first one is do nothing. So I learned early in my career, I was on a team. I learned that decoys sometimes figure out how to work themselves out. I was on a team, and we had a really cool guy come in and talk to us. His name is Dave Geddes. He's my friend. Does anyone know Dave? So we had Dave come in and talk to us, and it was a great talk, and I was like pumped at it. We had these 2 leaders that were like super disrespectful and super not cool with him. And I came back and I was like to my director, I was like, oh my gosh, man. You better go apologize to Dave right now. And you better go tell those guys they're in so much trouble. And the director said, here's the deal. Dave knew what he was getting into. I think he's fine. But those guys already got what they deserved. Like, I don't really have to punish them. They've already been punished. And I was like, how so? How's that? And he said, do you want to work with them ever? I was like, no, I don't. He's like, half the people that saw that are in the same boat and do not want to work with them ever. I was like, that's actually a really good point. Sometimes the punishment's self-inflicted. And sometimes they have a way of working themselves out. So sometimes you just need to give it time, and you don't need to fret and lose sleep about it. Sometimes, decoys, what does that say? Okay. I'm at 19 minutes on mine. Oh yeah, that's 5 minutes. Oh, that's right. Dang it. Okay. All right, I'm gonna hurry. Okay. Accept that they'll always be there. You can't get rid of them if you try to. They look like a leader, so everyone's going to be like, why are you trying to take out the current leader? That doesn't make sense. You're going to ruin morale and undermine your own ability to actually be a leader. So don't just accept that they're there. It's okay that they're there. Everyone's going to have them. They're not going away anytime soon. So just accept that they're there and they'll always be there. The last one is become a leader. Now, a lot of people are like, that's cute. How do I just show up at work and I'm the leader? Like, that's not how it works, right? That actually is how it works. You have a couple different kinds of leaders. You have the kind that are appointed by management and you follow them because management said to. And then you have the leader who everyone goes, I'm going to follow that person because what they do is the thing that we do. That's how I think we should do. And that's how you become a leader. You don't need to be appointed as a leader. What happens is you lead and management acknowledges it. That's how leaders are made. So start leading and management will acknowledge it eventually. So become a leader. Start being a leader. Sometimes you ask them for data. Say, hey, that's interesting. I'm not sure I agree. Show me some data. Netflix has this really cool saying, a fact without data is an opinion. Is this true? Yeah, it's totally true. I love this quote. So if you're dealing with someone and you ask them for data and they got nothing, sometimes the situations diffuse themselves. If you really don't understand, because a lot of times when you're dealing with a decoy, you just don't understand, and that's totally fine. And you almost like sometimes we like cower, like I don't want to look dumb, like asking again. They already explained it 15 times. Keep asking, because maybe you really don't understand. Maybe they're just misunderstood, and if you understood, you'd get it. Keep asking sincerely. And sometimes when you go down these questioning lines, sometimes the concerns will either go away or you might actually come to an understanding with this person. So ask questions. Don't walk away not understanding and like be like, oh, I'm just not going to understand. That's not how it works. Raise concerns with management. It will help get you into the decision-making process and also help excel you as a leader. I'm going to throw a challenge out to everyone because that's what this is about getting better and coming to this conference and going home better. So my challenge is be the leaders. Everyone in here needs to be the leaders where they're at, and you're in charge of helping course correct and serve your customers. Being a leader is part of your job description, okay? I know we don't always think that. Maybe you're a junior developer, maybe you're a principal. I don't care where you're in between that. Being a leader is part of your job description. Helping define business requirements and solve pains that users are feeling, that's part of your job description too. So letting other people hijack that, it's your job to not let that happen. Ensuring that the product fulfills what what your users need, that's your job description. And the day where developers simply metastasize user stories and bug tickets from Jira or whatever, that's not a day where developers don't do that anymore. Developers have tangible control over what our users use. And when we get a ticket, it's got like 50 words in it. And there's so much more going on than those 50 words can say. And you get to control that. So be the leader of those things. A lot of times we think there's a ceiling above my head. I can't be a leader. Management doesn't let me do these things. I'm calling on you to challenge the ceiling. I don't think it's there most of the time that we say there's a ceiling there. I don't think it's really there. And if you just tried to lead through that, I think it would work. I'm challenging you to challenge the ceiling and become a better leader and help your organization. And ultimately, I'm just going to say it again, be the leader. And we need better leaders if we're going to better service our customers. A lot of us in here, we work at startups, and we're literally still fighting for our spot at the table. And I challenge all of us to stop following decoys, to become the better leaders that our organizations and our customers need us to be. Thank you.